Don't want anybody complaining though. Loading up.
We really love and value transparency at Utopia.
We're good to go.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay, we are good. Go ahead, Derek. Sorry about that.
Okay, so we had a motion by Brent and a second by Brenda for the minutes. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay. Next thing on the agenda is a budget amendment for the current budget year. Jason, go ahead.
Somebody needs to allow me to share my screen.
Working on it.
We may not even need my screen for this one. This is a quick budget amendment, and I'll share it now. I think I just saw that I can share. Okay. The only change is, as I look at our capital projects, I'm projecting we're going to be about 2 million higher than was budgeted. All of those capital projects are bond funded. I had projected a $14 million bond to do the funding of these projects when I did the budgets last year at this time. We ended up having a $20 million bond, so there is $2 million of additional money that was available for these capital projects. So this is just putting in the budget that we've budgeting for the capital projects. The capital projects we're doing are all based off of profitability, and we look at areas that are profitable, and that's where we're going to. Any questions?
Okay. Oh, go ahead. Is that you, Brant?
I was just saying no questions. I'm good.
Okay.
No, love that strategy of going where you can capture market share where it makes sense and put that investment.
And that's what we're doing. We're going for return on investment.
Okay, we need a motion to open a public hearing for the budget amendment.
All motion to open a public hearing.
Thanks, Mayor. Is there a second?
Second, this is Brent.
Second by Brant. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, the public hearing is now open for the fiscal year 25 budget amendment.
Yeah, we don't have anybody in the public in the room, and there wasn't anybody online with requests to join. So we're all here on our Zoom boxes.
With a motion to close public hearings.
I'll motion that we close the public hearing.
Thanks, Brenda. Is there a second?
I'll second. This is Zach.
Thank you, Zach. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, public hearings now closed. Now we need a resolution adopting the budget amendment. If there's no further questions on that from Jason, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 25-02, approving amendments for the annual budget for fiscal year 25.
Thank you, Brenda. Is there a second?
I'll second. This is John.
Give it to John.
Thank you, John. This will be a roll call. And Krista, will you help me with that?
Zach Foxen.
Yes.
I don't think we have Nate. Brenda Moore.
Yes.
John Flores.
Yes.
Brent Bybee.
Yes.
Brant Hansen.
Yes.
Mayor Lundberg.
Yes.
And Derek Euler.
Yes. Thank you, Krista, and thanks everybody. Thanks, Jason, for that. So our next item is the 2026 budget public hearing, and I'll turn time over to Jason to present that.
Uh, hold on, I might have got ahead of myself. Okay. Um, thank you, Derek. So I figure out PowerPoint here just a second. Okay, this presentation for the fiscal year 2026 board budget, I have made no changes from what was presented previously for the executive budget. So this presentation should be fairly familiar to everybody that's looking at it on the board. Here's a look at our recurring revenue and where we project everything to be. If you look at things, we're projecting to go from 48.8 million in the 2025 budget to 51.8 million in the 2026 budget for recurring revenue. The slope's gone down a little bit. I think we try to be conservative in our estimates, but part of this is also we haven't had any new city build-outs in UIA. Most of the city build-outs we've been seeing have been on the Utopia side under a different structure lately. So that has made the steepness of our growth line come down a little bit, but we're still expecting very good growth next year. Operating expenses similarly following where we saw the revenue. They've been steeper in past years and they're kind of leveling out this year. One of the bigger increases being in marketing and administrative expenses, and that's partly because of some of the door-to-door sales that we've been starting to do lately inside of existing cities, which has been a very, very profitable and very effective program as we've seen in West Valley and is starting to move to other places. Here's how much we plan on spending for network expansion. If we look at capital projects, that's the biggest line in here. We've gone from, well, there's more than, basically there's this $14.6 million line for capital projects in 2025 and then 2 million down below. We're actually planning on capital projects staying pretty consistent from this year to from 2025 to 2026. That's before the $2 million change that we made for 2025. So 2025 is projected to be slightly higher. Did I hear a question? I'm sorry. I thought I heard something. No? Okay. And we are planning on issuing another bond in fiscal year 2026. That's kind of our plan on a go forward. We're finding that issuing these bonds is bringing in a lot of revenue and bringing our ratios in the direction that our bond rating agency especially wants to see us going. So that's our plan for the next few years, is every year in the fall to issue a bond. And the last thing on here is the distribution to cities coming from UIA. Well, it's coming through Utopia technically. I probably should change that slide to say Utopia, but it's a lot of this fund. I mean, this is a joint effort between UIA and Utopia to get the funding to the cities. And it's going up about $319,000 overall. This is the same amount as the 2% increase in the bond payment to the cities. I will say fiscal year 2026, the good thing for me about fiscal year 2026 is we've had very, very large increases in how much money we have to pay to just bond payments in fiscal years 24 through 26. After your fiscal year 27's increase in bond payments going to be much less than we've been seeing in the past. So we're interesting to see. I'm real interested to do 27's budget in a year here because I think it could look significantly different from that perspective. And I think that's all I had. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Jason. Hearing no specific questions, we need a motion to open the public hearing for the fiscal year 26 budget.
So moved. This is Brent.
Thank you, Brand. Is there a second?
I'll second. This is Zach.
Thank you, Zach. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the public hearing is now open for the fiscal year 26 budget.
Again, no comment from the room or online.
Somebody want to make a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll motion to close the public hearing.
I think that was Mayor Lundberg, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second, this is Brent.
Thanks, Brent. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, public hearing is now closed. Our next item is the resolution for the fiscal year 26 budget. Is there any additional questions for Jason? If not, somebody could make a motion on that resolution.
This is Brent.
I would-
Okay, somebody
Go
else want
ahead,
to do it?
Brent.
No, all right. Motion to approve resolution 25-03, approving an annual budget for fiscal year 2026.
Okay, thank you, Brent. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Brenda. This will be a roll call vote. Krista, if you'll help me with that.
Zach Clarkson,
Yes.
Brenda Moore,
Yes.
John Flores,
Yes.
Bryn Bybee,
Yes.
Brent Hansen,
Yes.
Mayor Lundberg,
Yes.
and Derek Euler.
Yes. Thank you, Krista, and thanks, Jason, for all your work on putting those budgets together. Okay, our next item is a financial update for current year. Go ahead, Jason.
Here's the current year financial update. This is looking at results through April 30th. If we look at the revenues projected versus budgeted that I have here, I'm showing that we're going to be, roughly, what's that going to be? $130,000 under budget. If you look at the top transport, the three main lines we look at was the residential transport, business transport, and tribe release revenue. I think that's a very conservative. If you want my actual opinion is that doesn't include any growth for May and June. I think we'll probably have somewhere between 90 and 130,000 of growth, and we're going to come in very, very close to budget at year end for revenues this year. Miscellaneous revenue, we're below that amount, but that's we're really close to where we expected to be. We budget for more miscellaneous revenue because we have a negative fund balance in UIA, which has been decreasing and I expect to go away in the next couple of years, but we have to budget 5% of our revenues to go against that negative fund balance. And so that's where the revenue to cover the negative fund balance comes in on that line. So cash flow wise, we're fine. Being low on revenue here doesn't mean we're going to be low on cash flow. That's the good news there. Sorry, I thought I heard another. Is that a question? Sorry. No. The other line that we do have that's over revenue that's over here is the marketing expense. Marketing expenses have been higher than they were projected. And part of this was due to the when you look at the door-to-door campaigns that we're doing, but that's not all of it. There is a big increase in next year's budget for marketing expenses, I mentioned as we went through the budget in the previous item. Capital projects right now are showing at about 1.1. This bottom line where it says capital spending showing at about 1.15 million above budget. I think we'll come in over that number because we have a lot of invoices that come in July. They're just lagging payments and my projections formulas don't cover that, but I think we'll be closer to $2 million on that. Any questions on the financials? If not, here's our revenue charts. Some good news is we can see the lines continuing to grow, the total green line. The one really good piece of good news for UIA is we just passed $4 million a month in recurring revenue. So I think that's a decent milestone when you look at UIA and where we expect to be next year. The other good news about having passed there is a lot of the revenue increase we need for next year is already in our customer base. So So that's good. And really, if you look at our revenue increases every year, about half of it comes from the year before. And that's just because we had customers all during the year, and some of these customers we only have, 1 or 2 months of revenue in fiscal year 25, but we'll have 12 months of revenue in fiscal year 26. And if this is just for UIA, you look at our monthly revenue versus our bond expenses, and that gap continues to grow, and that's a good thing. That's what we continue to want to see. Any questions on the financial update?
Jason, this is Brent Ivy.
Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to pass along a request from my mayor and council that Roger was asked when he came and presented, and he did a great job, and it was very helpful and educational. One request was related to all the debt. If there was a way to calculate the outstanding principal associated with Orem, based off of like our 21 or 22%, I guess, membership amount. If we were to turn our total membership into, I guess, a percentage or whatever. Anyway, that would just be a data point that would be, I think, helpful. I'm hoping in just kind of reassuring people that we're in a decent spot and in a constantly improving position as it relates to revenue compared to debt.
So do you just want to see the debt number related to Orem? Is that what you're asking for? I got a little
Yes.
confused when you started bringing up revenue, but yeah. No, I can definitely do that. Would you like me to? What I'll probably do is show where the debt's going to be at June 30th, 2025, because it's easy to project that, and it's a number that's going to be right. You have to make your bond payments on time. Would you want me to include UIA and Utopia just kind of lumped together?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'll just lump UIA and Utopia's outstanding debt together and multiply by your percentage of ownership. I can get that to you this week.
That would be wonderful. Thanks so much, Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Bye-bye.
So this is Laura. I don't know if I can be heard. Hello?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. So Bren, I'm just curious what the thought is. I mean, if it's a matter of we just want a data point, that's great. If the council's thinking something like we've won the lottery, we're going to pay our portion off or something, that will be a different calculation because of the bond callability. So it may be a stupid question. I'm just curious what their thought process is. And maybe you don't know.
At the meeting I was on, they were just kind of like, how much of that is ours that's outstanding, right? Just wanting a number. And certainly we want to provide the context of all that, but I didn't get sense that was like, okay, now what's our plan to exit or pay off or whatever, but correct me if I'm wrong, Brad. It's just kind of.
No, you're right. You're right. It's not intended to necessarily be actionable, more just to see both sides of the ledger, because we share really well the revenue side, and there's this graph that you show here that shows that expanding difference between revenue and then the debt obligations that have come on over time. And it'd be nice to show that Utopia and UIA combined.
Brent, I do have one additional question. We have many of these bonds that are backed by sales tax, by franchise tax and sales tax pledges in cities outside of the UIA and Utopia board. Would you like me to exclude those bonds? Because I don't think I wouldn't consider those Orem's responsibility. Very, very low risk. What's that?
If it's not Orem's responsibility, then leave it off.
I mean, it'd only be in Orem's responsibility if there were a default by another city. So I'll leave it off.
Okay.
Any other questions for Jason on the financial update?
I just have a quick question. Looking at the revenue and that we're still doing quite well when you see some other broadband companies having decline cliffs and customer churn. I'm assuming, Roger, you can speak to the general percentage of loyalty, turnover, our customer churn is staying stable or doing
Yeah,
well.
I'll jump into that a little bit on my agenda item. Once we let Jason off the hook here.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to jump the gun.
You're good.
Roger, go ahead with your update if you're ready. And
Are you done, Jason?
I'm done. Yeah, I was just taking questions.
Awesome. Okay. So we'll jump into like what's going on in the market. There's a lot of good and a lot of bad. Specifically to Mayor Lundberg's question on churn, we're still strong, but we've seen some changes that have made some things a little bit more difficult. And again, I apologize for my voice. I don't know what's going on here. Hopefully you can all understand me. So a couple of big things that have happened. We're seeing a lot of market consolidation. It is harder to finance and build broadband networks in today's economy. Things are more expensive, interest rates are high. And so rather than investing in a lot of growth and build, we're seeing consolidations. And so a couple of the big ones that have happened is Charter and Cox are merging to become the largest broadband provider in the country. That one doesn't really affect us other than in Bozeman. One that does affect us is that we do have AT&T is acquiring the residential side of Lumen, which is CenturyLink. So they were CenturyLink, and now then they rebranded as Lumen, and then they started marketing their fiber to the home division as Quantum Fiber. So any of those brands are going to become AT&T Fiber, and so we will now have AT&T as a new competitor in our cities. We have seen Quantum making some investment in growth, but mostly it was just to kind of pump up their valuation before the acquisition. That doesn't mean though that we wouldn't expect to see AT&T continue that. So we're watching them very closely. It's probably going to take them about 6 months to finalize the approvals for that, with the FTC and all them. And then another one is we have Verizon acquiring Frontier, and that one doesn't affect us territorially, but directionally, we're just seeing a lot of this where they're like, hey, we need to grow, but the economics are hard. And I would agree, it is hard. We were doing a lot more city partnerships and growth, and that worked really well at a 2.5% interest. It's a lot harder with today's interest, and also construction costs, inflation have gone up quite a bit that affect our industry, and yet consumers aren't really saying, oh, well, rather than pay 70, I'd be content paying 100. They don't want it, right? Like, we need to stay competitive. So the price increase or, ability to stay competitive has not kept up with pace of inflation and all that. So we're seeing kind of a slowdown generally in the market. Kind of coinciding with that, we're not seeing a lot of competition. We've seen a little bit of overbuild in a couple of pockets. If you look at our city specific, I'm going to pull up a little bit of this stuff. It's nice. I like to pull up the ones from the packet because you have this available to you. Overall, sorry, I'm in the wrong slides here. So this is kind of the front thing. By next month, we're going to be celebrating 75,000 subscribers, so that'll be exciting. But as you jump into the subscribers, you can see by city what's going on here a little bit. Most of them are all increased. But if you look at Brigham City, that was a city that was overbuilt by Quantum Fiber, and then they were pushing door-to-door sales. So it was very aggressive there. We did lose customers, but if we're to drill down, we're in recovery mode, I guess, where we're now seeing customers kind of coming back on and stabilized. So relative to an entire city being overbuilt and then heavily marketed at a lower price point, we actually fared really, really well. I was actually a lot more concerned about it before. We've seen them do this in Centerville, and we're seeing them starting in some other cities. We've got them building in Layton and Orem. But they've kind of stepped back a little bit because now they're in acquisition mode. Again, it was kind of this push to try to bump up the valuation. So they sold for $5.75 billion, based on having just over 1 million subscribers. They're valuing customers about $5,500 to $6,000 per subscriber in their acquisitions. We're seeing that kind of out there in the market. So anyways, I mean, the main point of it is we're still doing very well. If we were looking at just at this last month, we had a net growth across all of our cities and partnerships of almost, well, actually just over 1,000, which is a phenomenal month. I mean, with as little as is going on, so like we have lots of new cities. We have Bountiful that's coming on really strong. That's going to show up on the Utopia side of things from a revenue perspective. We finished up West Haven. That's the most recent build, and that's coming on pretty well with, and that's a UIA one. But across all of these partnerships, to have over 1,000 net growth was fantastic. And some of the efforts that kind of pushed us over the top include that door-to-door campaign. West Valley City, historically, we've kind of seen it at like 20 to 30 sales a month. We're still growing and getting more customers there. But with the door-to-door campaign, we're pushing up over, under and over, back and forth a little bit, around 200 a month. And so it definitely makes a dramatic difference. Each of those customers were then getting revenue, both the infrastructure fee of $30 and a transport fee, which averages about $29, something like that, Jason. So to spend some money on a commission and then an installation to an existing project, and then have about almost a $60 a month revenue, it's a very good ROI. Again, we want to do more and more of those. If we end up having to, bond to continue to pay for installations and commissions to do that model, it's a very good use of money. It's very profitable to us. It's harder to start a whole new city from scratch and make those economics work because you're building it and then attaching that. But for all of the cities that we've already built, I don't want to call them the sunk cost, but in some ways they are, to add customers, especially where the cities kind of reach some level of maturity, to have another push of marketing and add customers is a phenomenal return on investment. So that's a tool we're looking at. Really, we've been conservative in our projections in the future, but if we can overachieve, which we're trending that way, things get very interesting. And as Jason said, our debt obligation next fiscal year, not 26, but 27, does not increase very much. The fact we can keep up with the increase this year and still support the dividend back to the city is great, but it feels like we're swimming upstream a little bit because of the increasing debt payments. But from a long-term perspective, things get very interesting. 27, and then every year after that, if we can maintain some level of revenue growth, things, our ability to dramatically increase those payments to the city and take more of the bond obligation gets very interesting. So we're really excited for the future. There's still potential partnerships out there. Obviously, those happen, and we come in and revise all the budgets and all that. I'm not to say that there isn't that potential out there. But in fact, I think we might see some more of that coming back. There's a lot of people hopeful that the BEAD program, this $42 billion from the federal government, might become this big windfall, help, fiber deployment. That project largely got derailed in this last week, political reasons. But they basically said, we're going to force all the states to basically cancel everything they've done and revise the programs to not give any preference for fiber. And so now everyone's expecting that money to go to satellite and wireless and very little fiber. And the states are pushing back because they know fiber is the best investment, but the federal government's basically pulling a rug out from under them and forcing them to do a cost-based awards only. It's the only criteria they can use, and they have to be technology agnostic, even if it's not a good long-term investment. That's really the tragedy of it. In some ways, It's like, well, okay, fine, Starlink or these companies will get the money. The communities that are served by those will still have the opinion that they're not served. We run into that all the time, right? We go out and talk to some city and we're like, yeah, there's no federal subsidy money available to you because you're served. They're like, we're not served. We hate our service. It's terrible. It's overpriced. It's unreliable. We want fiber, right? So certainly there's a big disparity between what the federal government thinks is adequate and what communities themselves feel. And that's not just us in Utah, although we've been very good here, but across the country, there's enormous frustration still with the broadband availability in areas that are considered served and eligible for the money. And this retooling of the program does not help. But I do expect that we'll see a lot of cities say, well, fine then, if there's no hope for us in this bucket of money, we need to seek a better solution. But based on the economics that I described earlier, it's more likely going to require some form of subsidy from cities. We've been able to do a lot of projects under UIA where we finance a project, build it, and the revenue covers it. That may not work as well. And so I think in some situations we're like, it's going to have to be 25% subsidized or something like that. Now that's not from us, that's from the potential partner in city to make the economics work. But there's that much frustration out there with broadband. That's not unrealistic actually. So I think we still have a good potential for growth and partnership in cities. If we don't have it, there's still a lot going on. We still have, your cities haven't really stopped growing, which is good. But we're actually doing a lot of construction, a lot of build just in all the new development. Obviously Utah is developing at a very rapid pace, which means there's a lot of new homes and new neighborhoods and all that going in all over the place. And, we're able to expand our footprint quite a bit just by keeping up with all of that. And the costs are generally lower as the new developments go in. So that's makes our economics work much better than they do with brand new, well, not a brand new, an old neighborhood that we having to go in and drill. We love putting it in the trenches when the other utilities are going in. So anyways, there's a lot of stuff that we're working on. It's all been very good. And like I said, over 1,000 customers net growth is good, both for Utopia and UIA. It's more than we had planned, which is great. So we're expecting to do better than our budgets, but budget's good. And we're excited for the future. And I think that's all I had. You guys have all got those reports. If there's ever questions about the reports, you got your city specific and whatever, just please let me know. Sometimes the cell doesn't get updated properly or charged, something like that. So if you notice any errors, please let us know. But we think that's a useful tool for you all, and you're always welcome to share your reports with your councils to give them an update on, people love take rate, but it's always like, just customers, right? These are all households, a lot of people behind every one of those connections, and the trend of upward growth exists everywhere. In all of our cities, other than those little blips I already talked about. But systematically, we're still taking customers from all the other available options in our cities, which, we say we take a customer, really that's somebody who's benefiting from the investment of the city and sees this as the best option for them. And that trend continues across the board. So we're excited about that. Can't apologize for my voice. Take vitamin C or something. Any questions for me on the network update and industry kind of stuff?
Roger, I got a quick question. How many door-to-door sales folks do we have out there right now?
So they're not our employees. We issued an RFP, and so we've contracted that out to a company, and they kind of ramp up and down. So they're not dedicated. I think at any given time, how many do you think they have out there?
At any given time, we have about 40 to 50, but we have about 80 on the bench, if you will. So this will be depending on the market and their availability to go sell. We'll rotate different reps in and out. This initiative started in Bozeman, Montana last summer as an effort to try and ramp up their take rate. We saw huge success there. And so we're using the same company both in Montana and Utah, and sometimes that's competing priorities as far as where those reps can actually go. And so there's about 40 to 50 to answer your question at any given time.
And they come in waves. Like they're not usually out there in a city the whole month. They'll go to kind of a wave for a week and then move on to, they've got other clients and other projects they work on. But they've been very effective. We have a lot of kind of a very tight feedback loop, because we're like, we don't want those phone calls, complaints from overly pushy salespeople going to the city, the mayors and the city managers and the councils. Obviously we have more sensitivity to that than say like a Quantum Fiber or somebody else would have. But that's important to us, right? The quality and the experience and the impact of the community is very important. So again, if you hear complaints or anything negative about this team, we want to know about every single one of them, because this isn't us just trying to push sales on people. This is almost more of an education, just to let people know, hey, you have this, and the city has made this available to you. It's a very different pitch than just, hey, I'm out here pushing broadband for my company. So again, please let us know if we're overwhelming you a little bit as that comes through. We want it to be a good experience at the door, not one more of these people that drive people nuts when they show up at dinner time and are pushy and they're trying to get away from the door. So we all know how that is, and we want to benefit from the I don't want to say pushy, but the communication getting further. There's still, despite all of the work that we do and flyers and banners in your city buildings and advertising online, we still find those people that are like, what's Utopia? I've never heard of it. And we're like, and this is just one other avenue that has been very effective, letting people know that we're here and to talk about the value of this service. So far we pushed in West Valley City with that. As Jeff mentioned, it was Bozeman originally, which was kind of a trial, which wouldn't have a lot of impact if it went badly. But it went really well, and we got really good feedback. And so then we're coming in with the UIA and Utopia cities. And we've done West Valley City was the first push, and then that's moved into Murray and Midvale.
Yep. And then as of June 1st, we're launching into Orem, Syracuse, and Clearfield, sort of a north and south initiative there.
And again, if the complaints start coming in and it's too much, we can redirect them very quickly to other areas, or even shut down specific sales reps if there are complaints. And we want to be very tight on that. We don't want you to have complaints or bad experience in your communities. Anyways, that's all I have.
Just a quick thing, Roger. This is Zach. I do share those subscriber reports when I provide updates to my fellow council members. They're very helpful, particularly when I can show, the revenue distribution that's being provided to the original cities. And then when I can go back and say, look, we've increased, we're over 10,000 subscribers in the city of Layton now, and our distribution's increasing. That really helps folks who maybe aren't in the nitty gritty of, UIA Utopia. They can see those numbers, they can take them to constituents that they talk to. And it really helps, I think, broaden the approval for what we're trying to do, and because sometimes in these cities, in the original cities, we still have some holdouts who still think the old days are still the current days. And it's really nice to show where revenue is now and subscribers are now. So just a kudos to you and your professional staff for helping us be able to right the ship and be able to provide good news to, the residents and to those when we go into council meetings. So just thank you again.
Great. Thank you all in your support too. It makes a big difference when cities support it. So we really appreciate the work you guys do as well to help promote it.
When the distribution amount doubles in 2027, it'll be really easy for our councils, right? Jason's shaking his head.
Maybe not double. Don't No, it won't be that high.
I'm just kidding. Well, thank you. Thanks, Roger and your staff. Jason, is there anything else anybody needs to bring up before we adjourn? No. Okay, I'd entertain a motion that we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks,
Brent.
Brent. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for taking your time this morning, and thanks, Roger, for your staff for all that's going on.
Good week.
Thanks.
Thanks.